Hello, my name is Ray Lopez. I am your City Council representative for District 6. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our program today. I'm very excited to have as my guest Jonah Katz, Senior Planner for the Center City Development Office, and later we'll have Brandon Ross, who is the Special Projects Manager for the Parks and Recreation Department. On today's show, we'll be discussing the city's Brownfield and Linear Parks program. Now, I'd like to welcome to the show my first guest, Jonah. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's quite exciting to have you on staff and doing the kinds of things that you do. I know that several years ago I had an opportunity to be in Washington, D.C. Didn't really know what a brownfield was, and maybe some of our viewers don't, so I'm going to give you an opportunity in a minute to kind of explain that. But to finish my story about being in D.C., I saw this big banner that said, have you gotten your brownfield grants in yet? And I was at EPA, and I went in and I asked, we haven't gotten our brownfield grants. Tell me about that. And from there, I realized that we had a significant issue here in our city as well as around the country, around brownfields and those kinds of things. So we started the process of figuring out how San Antonio can position itself to make sure that we have a very aggressive brownfield program. We've tried several things on grants and the like, and lo and behold, what we needed really was someone that was dedicated to doing that on a day-to-day basis, and I think that's where you come in. So why don't we start the program with that? Tell us, what is a brownfield, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that affects San Antonio.
Sure. Well, a brownfield in general is an abandoned or underutilized property across the city that have complications with redevelopment or rehabilitation due to real or perceived environmental contamination issues. And so brownfields are of all shapes and sizes, and they can include like abandoned corner gas stations, abandoned dry cleaners, large former landfills, abandoned factories, and just any property that has been derelict and blighted for a really long time and might have some historical environmental issues with it.
So like contaminants is one of the things that you talk about. What are some of those contaminants that could be there? And talk a little bit about the degree of that contamination. I mean, is it dangerous, not so dangerous, or incredibly difficult to mitigate and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's a variety of contaminants on brownfield sites. A lot of unknowns because of how old these sites are before environmental regulations were in place. So a lot of remnants of old industrial processes like leftover metals like arsenic and mercury being used as fill materials, underground petroleum tanks from abandoned gas stations that are actually leaking and seeping into the soil and groundwater, and just a variety of other things that come from the runoff of illegal dumping sites. And those chemicals get mixed into our streams and our soil and can cause public health problems, at the same time adding much risk to developers that want to come into those properties.
Right, and I think most people recognize the gas stations, that years back I remember there was a particular station here in the city of San Antonio that you could see them closing down on major intersections and everything. Well, we're having a blighted area there. Why doesn't that get opened up again? We really needed that market or that gas station. But the reality of it was that it was not in compliance and was creating a brownfield. And I think most people kind of recognize that. But you say that also landfills and the like. What are some of the things that are in there? You talked about arsenic and all those kinds of, but obviously nobody's going in there dropping arsenic into these things. What are the things that create those pollutants?
Just from older industrial processes, like
concrete, things of that nature. Is things that simple?
Yeah, sometimes it's that simple. I mean, all sorts of variety, and that's why brownfields are so complicated, because if an old manufacturing or industrial use was used to process concrete or process different types of profitable business for that old user, the remnants of that, if they're not disposed properly, they remain on the site. And so every brownfield has its own unique history, and that's why kind of the brownfields program researches that history to find out.
So just about anything could have created that contamination, even things as simple as people dumping concrete, or maybe somebody after a job went and dropped some stuff off.
So, sure, tires, old
all that
auto
kind
parts,
of stuff.
those kind of things.
Well, and I think that's what I think is concerning most people. I mean, it isn't something that people went around trying to contaminate areas. It just people were dumping things, and those things gave off these very bad things for our community. And I also recognized after looking at some maps that many of these dump sites were on our linear creeks. I mean, obviously, if you're going to go dump something, it's kind of easy to dump it into a linear creek, which creates other problems.
Sure.
What is some of the processes that the city is doing that your office is kind of trying to create to do some redevelopment around some of these areas?
What we want to do is plug properties into kind of the brownfield revitalization process, which is a series of steps that are taken to move a site that could potentially be contaminated into a clean site without any environmental risk that can be then developed onto something new and productive use. So what we are supporting through grants and other resources are, first of all, some environmental assessments. There's what's known as a phase 1 and phase 2 environmental assessment, which researches into a potential brownfield site, looks into the history of that site, whether it was an old factory or old gas station, what types of potential contaminants could be there. That's the phase 1 assessment. If necessary, we move on to a phase 2 assessment, which is a more technical process, a more intrusive process that actually goes into a site, digs holes, collects soil and water samples so we can actually measure what the levels of contaminants are. And then with that information, you can move on to the next step, which is to do a plan for cleanup. If it becomes necessary to clean up the site, the development of a cleanup plan will outline exactly what kinds of mitigation needs to happen on the site to get it a clean bill of health. And then you move on to the cleanup, which is more expensive and more extensive, and that's the actual physical removal outlined by the cleanup plan to clean up that site. And then you have a site without any environmental risk, and you can move in more to the development side of things. And the city's brownfields program is developing a variety of incentives to help a clean site go from a brownfield to a productive use.
Great. Well, I mean, obviously the process that you just explained to us is pretty complicated. I would imagine that it's also pretty expensive. So what are the funding sources? And you know, I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show about brownfields and federal grants and things of that nature. I mean, what is the magnitude of the investment that we'll have to make in our community to ultimately do the cleanup? And how much do we need in the near term?
The EPA for the last 15 years has, the Federal Environmental Protection Agency has targeted investment into brownfields programs across the city. And every 2 or 3 times a year, they offer some grant opportunities and loan opportunities, low interest loan opportunities, to help cities fund brownfield assessments and brownfield cleanups. And those range between $200,000 and $400,000 on any given funding cycle. So that's a pool of money that we can apply for and helps give a big boost to our programs. Also, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality offers brownfield assistance, a little more limited, but still assessments, assistance in voluntary cleanup programs that help property owners that aren't responsible for contamination get some technical assistance and oversight into cleaning up their properties. And so there's a state level. And then there's the local commitment, which can be a variety of fee waivers, tax abatements to support brownfield development.
Well, I can tell you that now that you're on board, I know that the city's going to continue to focus and be real aggressive about doing those kinds of things. And I think you kind of hit it on the head when you talk about all the different individuals that are kind of involved in getting this to happen, because it really is our community that they're interested in trying to get it cleaned up. So what are some of the things that the community members could do? I mean, obviously they can wait for us to go get grants and do all that kind of stuff, but what are some of the things that the community members, property owners, and folks like that could do to either identify or help mitigate or things of that nature?
Sure. I mean, the candidates that are best for help of this program assisting different developers are ones that are, well, there's a variety of approaches. One, we are working with those in the development community that have already put some resources into their own environmental mitigation on their own properties. And if they are willing, if they have demonstrated that and they can leverage those kind of resources, we want them to work with us, and we can use a variety of tools in our toolkit to help offer some more financial assistance and more incentives and give them access to types of programs the city has available to help with that kind of development. The other thing that we're really asking for at this early stage is that some of the biggest unknowns we have are what brownfields are out there. And that's why we're developing a variety of community outreach tools. Basically, we would really find it helpful for citizens and groups across the city to bring some sites that they've noticed to us. Code enforcement and other people are out there inspecting on a daily basis, but we can't find them all. And once those are identified, we have our own evaluation system for. We're not going to be able to clean up everything all at once, but we do have a system to prioritize brownfield development. And so we're asking community members to contact me, contact your office with with sites that they've noticed have been abandoned and derelict for a long time. Those are ideal candidates for a brownfield program. We can see what environmental work has done on them, see if we need some more resources into that process I described earlier. So basically identifying sites, and also if you already have a development plan for private property owners and developers, if you already have a redevelopment plan, but it's kind of, you have to jump through some environmental hurdles in order to get that project done, we want to talk to you as well.
There's a lot of information relative to brownfields that we're putting out. A lot of it is really educating the communities on what they can specifically do. There's permitted and unpermitted. TCQ has a lot of maps and all kinds of stuff, and we're trying to get that information made available to them so they can say, hey, the spot that I know about isn't on there, so report it. And that's what we want. We want them to do that for us to help us build that inventory. So we're looking forward to continuing to working with you. As complicated and as important as this is, I'm going to ask if you'll come back on several follow-up meetings to kind of give us a report on how things are going. And there's no question that it's going to be aggressive and it's going to be successful. And I think there's a lot of interest from the public. So thank you for being here, and I really appreciate your comments. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after a short break to talk to Brandon Ross. Thank you.
Did you know that getting up and getting active for just 60 minutes a day is all it takes to help you get stronger, look better, and feel great?
Or that fresh fruits and veggies aren't just healthier and crunchier, they can taste better too?
Eating better and getting more active is easier than you think.
Yeah! Keep watching for some fun and easy ways to discover the magic of healthy living in your life.
America.
Let's get healthy together!
Really?
Buzz, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, Smokey.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Cuando la vida es así de dura, graduarse puede ser aún más duro, pero tú puedes ayudar a José y a los estudiantes en tu comunidad a sobreponerse visitando boostup.org.
Welcome back to the program. I'm your host, District 6 Councilman Ray Lopez. We're going to be talking to Brandon Ross next, and we're real excited to have you here because I know the fun stuff that you get a chance to go out in the field and do, because I've been out there doing it with you, as well as a bunch of citizens and others that say, what's he up to? Do you guys actually pay him to do what he does? And I say, well, actually, he does an awful lot of work where we get to see is the fun part at the end of all the hard work that you do with the linear parks and that whole system that I think is so critical to our city. I'd like to ask you just a couple of questions, but let's start. Kind of give us an idea or kind of a brief overview on the Greenway development projects and kind of what that's all about.
Well, this is an idea that was developed some years back, probably 10, 15 years ago. It was developed over time, and it was just basically an idea to take some of the most beautiful land of the city, which is along the creekways, some of the biggest treed areas and some of the places where you find the best wildlife and that kind of thing, and to create hike and bike trail systems out of those greenways, the areas along the creeks that basically lend themselves to a linear park system.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that a lot of folks are enjoying those linear park system trailheads and the parkways that are out there now and the creekways that are out there now. About how much of that is completed versus still on the drawing?
Well, we have right now, we've got 38 miles completed. We have the system runs on Leon Creek, Salado Creek, and Medina River currently. There's 38 miles completed total. We've got 15 miles on Leon Creek, 16 miles on Salado Creek, and another 7 miles on Medina River. And so that will be 41 in the near future as we finish another one on Leon Creek. And then we hope to have, with the funding that we have available now, to have over 80 miles done by the time it's all said and done.
Now, I know that everybody is interested in all 80 miles, but
yes.
I'm in District 6, and tell us a little bit about what some of the features perhaps would be that they would see if they went out there. I think a lot of them have had the experience, but many haven't yet.
Right.
What are some of the things you'd see going down that the District 6 component of that linear creek?
Well, of course, these areas are wooded, and so you'll see mostly a dry creek bed, but actually near the Levi Strauss Park at Old Highway 90, Rodriguez County Park area. That's one that's under construction right now. We hope to have open in the future. That area does actually have flowing water that goes in the creek, so they'll be able to see that, be able to see the wildlife. There's a lot of deer, especially on Leon Creek north of Loop 410, rabbits and other kinds of wildlife. You know, you could get a chance to kind of get out there, especially in the early mornings, really the best time to be out there, I think.
Well, just north of the Ingram via trailhead, if you go up just a ways, there's a really nice area, and I think if you stand there and kind of look across, I mean, you could just as easily be, maybe not quite as dynamic and dramatic as Grand Canyon, but you certainly would see never believing that you're right in the middle of, you know, of all the development in San Antonio.
Absolutely. There's beautiful views out there.
They really are.
And just, you know, the areas that you can get out on the greenways like this out by the creeks, you just don't find the kind of secluded woods like that in other places of the city large times. We have, fortunately in San Antonio, some nice big natural areas where you can go.
Yeah, we really do. And I think that's what some of the things that I think people are most impressed with that go down there. It's a great refuge. It's a great place to go out and just spend some time, get a little exercise in. Right. But it also connects to the Via Trail, to the Via line.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that and how we're incorporating that whole transportation component of to the
right.
trailheads.
We had the unique opportunity at Ingram Road where they have a Via Transit Center that's already located at Northwestern Drive at Ingram Road. So we basically partnered with Via. They had the land that we needed for a trailhead. We were an amenity, I think, a park amenity that they saw as a benefit to their system. So we partnered together to create a trailhead that links right into their bus system. So essentially, somebody could go from anywhere in the city that you have Via access to the bus system, put their bike on the front of the bus. They have, of course, the bike racks on the front of the bus now, so you can put your bike on there, go to the Leon Creek Greenway system, get off and ride your bike onto the 13 miles of trail we have on Leon Creek in that location, or they can go from the adjacent neighborhoods, ride their bike, and get on the bus, and go, you know, pretty much anywhere in the city.
Or downtown.
That's right.
And we'd like to make this an incredibly attractive and friendly bike city as well. So,
that's right, right.
You know,
yeah,
so
hopefully we'll get some out-of-towners experiencing
absolutely.
it too.
Now, you talked a little bit about downstream from that location on Ingram down to Rodriguez Park and that area. So what is the stage that's in from construction, and when do you think people will be able to make that whole drive all the way down, roughly?
Well, they're in the mid to late stages of construction now. and I'm hoping that we can have that open to the public. September is our deadline to get that done, and so we're hoping to have that by September, open to the public and ready to use by fall, so we get the nice temperatures, people can start enjoying that trail system. It'll link into the Levi Strauss Park, which is on Old Highway 90. We have a connection over to the Wolf Stadium. We have a connection to Rodriguez County Park, and so there'll be a lot of areas there. And like I said, it runs along Leon Creek. It's got the flowing water in it, and it's wooded and very pretty down there.
Well, and as we take that trip on the Creekway northward or out towards 1604, I know there are other segments there because I think currently it's finished up to Cathedral Rock, and then beyond that, what are the plans for development of that?
Well, we have everything developed right now from 1604 down to the Cathedral Rock area. Of course, the back of Cathedral Rock, by the way, is beautiful back there. It's got the fault line. It's like 300-year-old dormant fault line. Beautiful rock formations back there with a little bridge that goes over that rock formation. So there's that area, and then south from there it goes probably another mile or so where it connects into the Via Transit Center.
Right. No, and it's a fantastic, I mean, and that really is where I'm getting so many compliments about the work that has been done there. But I got to tell you, there's also some complaints. They're saying the parking lots are too small. And, I said, well, it's not that the parking lots are too small, it's that the use has gotten so great. And, and again, it's a complaint to this, really tied to the success of what it is. I drive by there. I happen to drive by that one pretty regularly, and it is jam-packed late in the morning. I mean, in the morning and late in the evening. Right. And it's a good thing because we would be a little disappointed if nobody was using it. But that's not the case. No. They are being used, and there's no question about it. And I think everybody's getting that level of pride rising to the point where I think we got some national recognition. The National Recreation Trail designation is the note that I have here.
That's right.
I didn't know about that. Tell me, what's that all about?
Well, we got recognized by the Department of the Interior through the National Park Service for the Leon Creek Greenway System and the Medina River Greenway System to become a part of what they call the National Recreation Trail System, which is basically the best of America's recreational greenways and trails around the country. There's, I believe, about 1,100 that have been recognized nationwide, and so now we're in that group as well.
Well, that's great. That's great. I keep encouraging people to take advantage of it, and I keep telling them these were just ditches, just water. Everybody associated negative flooding and negative events with these things, and now it's a great place not only to recreate, but also creating, as we spoke in the previous segment, some opportunities to clean up, to identify some areas that are on those creekways that perhaps were brownfields or maybe had some things in them that we really didn't want in our waterways.
Yeah, we're
working to clean those up.
That's right. When we began the project, of course, a lot of these places were fairly neglected. There was illegal dumping going on, ATV use, a lot of just people using them for four-wheel drive vehicles and that kind of thing. So we're trying to kind of protect the land a little bit better, create some boundaries so that we can let the land basically regenerate itself, protect it from dumping and that kind of thing, and let it become the beautiful green space that it's meant to be. Right.
No, I think people are appreciating that. So there are, I am sure, more projects on the horizon. Tell us about some of those projects in the near term and what we can expect to see.
Well, we're looking right now at expanding the areas, making connections between the existing trail systems. So the Leon Creek is actually, it has some tributaries on it, like Calabar Creek, for instance. So we're looking at expanding the trail system along Calabar Creek to reach into the farther west portions of the city. We're also looking at expanding it on Huesta Creek, which is also a tributary of Leon Creek. And then what we'd like to do is connect the Leon Creek and the Salado Creek Greenway systems north of town. We're also working with Fort Sam Houston to try to put the trail along just the outside of the base along Fort Sam Houston to try to connect the Salado Creek Greenway together and eventually create the implementation of the entire vision to create a whole circle of trails that are interconnected, connecting all these neighborhoods and providing recreational access for everybody.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to just kind of underscore, it's really connecting those neighborhoods, because I remember early on when I got on council, we were doing the Here We Come kind of meetings with the different neighborhoods, and we're going, I don't know if I want that back there. I don't know if I want a trailhead in my neighborhood, thinking that maybe it would attract people that they didn't want to be there, but really it isn't at all. it's attracting their neighbors, their folks,
Right.
giving them an access into the trailways. And now several neighborhoods that were a little concerned about what it was going to create for them have now completely turned around and said, so now when are you going to get more?
Yeah,
So
right.
but that's once again, a very good problem to have. I think the acceptance of the concept has really been there. And of course, it's being supported by taxpayer dollars.
Right.
We've been fortunate enough to get the taxpayers to allow us to levy a tax. Talk
That's right.
real quickly about how that happened and where we are in that cycle of funding.
Okay, well, we had originally the first cycle of funding that we got was in 2000. It was paired up with the Edwards Aquifer Recharge Zone. Back then, at that time, of course, it began to be a question about, okay, what's the water quality going to be like if we don't start to do a program like the Edwards Aquifer Recharge program that we have now, where they're buying property over the aquifer to protect water quality. And so the Creekways funding and the Edwards Aquifer funding have gone basically side by side. In 2000, it was voter approved, first in 2000, then again in 2005, then again in 2010. And so that's been the source of our funding has been thanks to the San Antonio voters, provided through the sales tax revenue.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I'm glad that you made the connection between what is really important, and that is aquifer protection, water quality, and all of the things that are so important to our community relative to that subject. So thank you very much for being here. I'll ask you to come back later on and give us a little bit more in-depth report or progress on what's going on.
Sounds great.
And thank you for tuning in. I'd like to once again thank my guests for taking the time to provide us with this great information about our city's brownfields and linear parks program. I look forward to upcoming shows, and until next time, I'm your Councilman Ray Lopez. Thank you again, San Antonio.
The magical thing about using energy wisely is that anyone can do it. Turn off lights. Use energy-saving light bulbs. And turn off computers and game systems when not in use. Make a change and we can really fly. Grab a grown-up and go online to energy.gov/kids.
Abandoned and lost. From the dark, cold streets of the city to a cage in the local shelter, to heaven, your lap.
Did you know that getting up and getting active for just 60 minutes a day is all it takes to help you get stronger, look better, and feel great?
Or that fresh fruits and veggies aren't just healthier and crunchier, they can taste better too?
Eating better and getting more active is easier than you think.
Yeah! Keep watching for some fun and easy ways to discover the magic of healthy living in your life.
America.
Let's get healthy together!